Lines. Speaker Gbajabiamila parleys with Ministry of Education, ASUU, on way out. INEC releases final list for presidential National Assembly elections. Flood displaces 40,000 people in Jigawa communities. Away from Nigeria, Japanese man sets himself on fire in apparent protest of Abe funeral. Hello and welcome to Trust News Update. I am Ayuba Ilya. Thank you for joining. And now the details. Speaker of the House of Representatives Femi Gbajabiamila has called on striking academic staff union of universities, ASUU, and government to find resolution on the ongoing strike in the interest of Nigeria students. The Speaker made the call on Tuesday at a tripartite meeting called at his instance to provide immediate solution to the 7-month-old strike. He stressed that the House will do all within the Constitution and its powers to make sure that children are back to school.
What we're here for is a solution and a way forward. We are at crisis stage, and it's time. Unfortunately, the House has been on recess. Once or twice we tried to recall the House, but everybody was all over the place. But now we're back, and we're going to do all we can constitutionally, and that is in our powers, to try and resolve this issue once and for all, because I believe we are all on the same page on one thing, and that is that our students have to go back to class.
I want to start by saying that one of the problems we seem to have in this country, that the only way to resolve our problems is not looked at symptom as problem, but look at the real issues. What we do in this country, we look at strike as a problem. But when you check, strike is just a symptom of the problem in the system. Nobody will go around our university today and will say our universities are good. Nobody. Whether it is federal, it is state, nobody. But we still to look at strike as a problem. And that's why in the past, it's 2009, we had so many of them. When we are on strike, we have the urge to stop the strike. And when the strike is over, we go back to the old way. Nothing happened to the issue for which there were strikes. And that is the problem.
Mr. Speaker, this step is not out of place at all. I think it will rather add to the steps already being taken by the executive with the intention of finding quicker solution to this problem.
Meanwhile, the Kaduna State government said it will not allow the blockage of the Kaduna-Abuja highway by the National Association of Nigerian Students in its protest in the state against the prolonged strike by the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU. The Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Aruwan, stated in a statement issued in Kaduna that the move was unacceptable and a prelude to the breakdown of law and order. The Commissioner therefore said that individuals and unions and other groups should take note of the advisory and keep off the road. Students of public universities in Nigeria are embarking on protests at strategic locations to ground activities in their attempt to pressure the government to meet ASUU's demand to suspend the 6-month locks on Nigerian universities. And on electoral matters, the Independent National Electoral Commission has published particulars of 18 presidential candidates and their running mates consistent with its timetable and schedule of activities for the 2023 elections. Academic qualification, age and gender of the candidates were published, while only APM is fielding a female presidential candidate, or JHichi. None of the political parties is fielding female running mate, and no candidate is a person with disability. PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar is the oldest with 75 years, while the youngest candidate is A Party Imu Molen Irene Christopher with 38 years. Now, ahead of the official commencement of campaigns leading to the 2023 general elections, Gombe State Police Command has warned political parties against use of violence. The Commissioner of Police in the state, Ishola Babaita, gave the warning on Monday during a stakeholders meeting in preparation for the commencement of electioneering campaign. Ibrahim Ismail reports.
The stakeholders meeting organized by the Nigeria Police Gombe State Command had in attendance representatives of political parties, Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC), traditional and religious institutions. The purpose is to ensure a conducive atmosphere before, during and after the 2023 general elections in Gombe State.
Participatory democracy, the provision of basic security of political parties rally provide a level playing field for all political parties and candidates to canvass for support, which is sine qua non to the overall integrity of the democratic and electoral processes. Objective of this imperative session, which is at the behest of the Gombe State Police Command, is part of the Inspectorate of Police deliberate effort at ensuring all activities of Nigeria Police before, during, and after 23 general election are in conformity with the Electoral Act 2022.
Representative of the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) Gombe State Office urged political parties to cooperate with the Commission throughout the electioneering cycle.
Able campaign, just as the police said, we also need a copy of where you are going and the date, because we have people, in fact, coming from even our national headquarters. All the parties should know this. They know what is happening. Not only we are sending our men to go and observe the campaign in each location. So please try and cooperate with us so that we make things to be peaceful. I also want to enjoin the politicians. We are also going to give we are going to conduct a free and fair election, inshallah. And apart from that, we are going to give a good playing ground.
From the traditional institution, the Waziri Yariman Gombe, Alhaji Yahya Hammari, said traditional leaders are neutral and vow to support the conduct of free, fair and credible elections.
Gombe is the host of everybody, more especially the IDPs. There are influx of people from different walks of life. Therefore, what we are just praying for, to have a complete information sharing between the security agents and the other political parties that are mandated, already registered under INEC.
This stakeholders meeting is coming barely 3 weeks to the commencement of campaigns ahead of the 2023 general elections. From Gombe, Ibrahim Ismail reporting for Trust TV.
President Muhammadu Buhari and Vice President Yemi Osinbajo were both out of the country on Monday to attend crucial international functions. Both did not observe the constitutional requirement to transfer power to the next in line for the period they were out of the country. This has raised a lot of debate about who was in charge. Kehinde Amodu analyzes the constitutionality behind their actions.
Section 145, subsection 1 and 2 of the Nigerian Constitution provides that whenever the president is proceeding on vacation or is otherwise unable to discharge the functions of his office, he shall transmit a written declaration to the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives to that effect. It goes further to insist that until he transmits to them a written declaration to the contrary, the Vice President shall perform the functions of the President as acting President. If for any reason the Vice President is not available, it goes forward to say the President of the Senate will step in. It is therefore not surprising that the absence of the two leaders from the country at the same time on Monday generated a lot of controversy. The question most Nigerians are asking is who was in charge during this period? And most importantly, isn't this a breach of the Constitution?
The Constitution donates the entire executive powers of the state to the president. And the same constitution says he can perform those functions either directly or through the vice president, ministers, and officers in the public service of the federation. So we start from there. The question will only come when you have a situation as contemplated in the constitution to say if after 21 days, for an example, the president is out of the country for 21 consecutive days without giving a letter.
Presidential aides have in the past dismissed public concerns on the matter, saying the president can work from anywhere in the world.
Well, I think the vice president should be back by now. It's not a long trip, it's 24 hours, 48 hours a trip. And don't forget that at this age of information technology, the president or the vice president can easily transmit messages across without any hindrance. So I don't think it's a problem.
On this occasion, though the president still remains in New York, the vice president, who was in the UK to attend the funeral ceremony of Queen Elizabeth II, is back in the country.
People are critical, and people will always have that fear that when both of them are away, something could happen. That fear you cannot discountenance. It's possible. And sometimes the time between when the things happen and when they come back to take the commanding roles, something serious might have happened.
Despite doubts about the constitutionality of his action, President Buhari has continued to execute presidential functions when he is away from the country. With no clear-cut check from the National Assembly, which is the custodian of the Constitution, it is likely that this particular habit will continue until May 29, 2023. From the Federal Capital, Kehinde Amodu, Trust TV News.
You're watching the news update on Trust Television. Coming up shortly. How tailoring is changing lives in Jos. Find out more on this after the break. Welcome back. Here's a recap of our top stories again. Speaker Gbajabiamila parleys with the Ministry of Education and ASUU on way out. INEC releases final list for presidential and National Assembly elections. Elsewhere, over 40,000 people have been displaced by the flood disaster in about 14 local government areas of Jigawa State. Victims camping in various public schools across the state say that they have lost farmlands and farm produce and that they have nowhere else to go. Trust TV Northwest correspondent Idris Debrin reports that authorities say over 90 people have so far been killed. The report.
These are over 250 people who are living in this primary school. They are part of the victims of the flood disaster here in Jigawa. Now these people say they have nowhere to go and that they are not going anywhere. They will continue to stay in this place until government provides them with another place that they can be able to stay, because their village is submerged inside water, their farmland is gone, their food items are gone, everything is gone. They have nothing, they virtually have nothing. So they will continue to stay here until government provides them with another land so that they can build their houses and continue to stay with their families. Mark you, these people are only among the over 40,000 people that are said to be affected by this flood disaster across Jigawa State. There are over 40,000 people affected in all the 14 local governments, in about 14 local government areas of the state. And if you go out there, there are also farmland. Thousands of farmlands were destroyed by this flood disaster. In fact, there are villages submerged. along the road as I'm coming from Duse to Ringim here, I've seen so many villages that were submerged inside water. All you can see is the zinc from a far distance. Those villages are inaccessible. We can't even enter the villages to see what remains around that area. And all these small children that you are seeing, they are staying here with their parents. There is no enough food, there is no good medicine, and the shelter is also very poor because these people are sleeping on the floor. There are no mattresses, they are only sleeping on the floor. So they are asking for government to provide some relief materials, which of course these relief materials have not started coming yet, even though the state government says they are trying their best to see how they can provide these people with at least food. But then the environment is actually very poor where they are living here at the moment.
In a similar vein, over 2,000 internally displaced persons living in Malkohi camp, the second most populated IDP camp in Adamawa State, have decried lack of sufficient food, healthcare personnel and teachers, among other basic necessities of life, as major factors besieging their lives. Salis Lawan reports on how these vulnerable people are calling on the government as a matter of urgency to assist them.
Boko Haram crisis in Adamawa, Borno and Yobe states have led to significant amount of loss of life, internal displacement, property destruction, decline in public service delivery, and significant disruption of social system of the community. Lasting peace and stability in the affected areas will likely remain threatened unless a strategic and sustainable system of reintegrating these victims back into the society is achieved.
So don Allah muna rokan wannan a kawo mana magani, makaranta da kuma tallafawa yaranmu da suke secondary school a Army Barrack da nan Malakwai a taimaka mana inda hali.
Our living condition here is appealing. Clinic no medicine, school no teachers, and also food stamps assistance are no longer coming like before. We seriously need to be supported. Please, we need our children to be educated. And more, our living condition need to be checked. Women and boys, who form the larger percentage of the camp population, are seriously affected educationally and psychologically.
Yes, we do receive some assistance from government and other non-governmental organizations. However, we need more. Our kids are no longer in school. Women and children are suffering, especially when it comes to healthcare services. We don't have business doing. As such lead us to begging. We don't like it.
Stakeholders believed providing livelihood support to enhance community coexistence between internally displaced persons and community residents will go a long way in providing a sense of belonging to these victims who lost nearly everything. They also solicited for the provision of key humanitarian services that have significant implications for mental health and psychosocial well-being to ameliorate hardship and trauma faced by these internally displaced persons. Silas Lawan, Trust TV News, Yola.
Now, tailoring is sometimes considered by many people, especially men in Nigeria, as a lesser occupation that may not be as profitable as some occupations. In Nigeria, hundreds of people, including those who have not acquired higher education, prefer white-collar jobs than skilled jobs that promote entrepreneurship. Ado Musa looks at how some tailors, popularly known as fashion designers in Plateau State, are making a living from the job despite being seen as non-lucrative trade.
A report by Joberman in collaboration with Youth African Works and MasterCard Foundation shows that the number of unemployed individuals in the country has hit 23 million in 2022. However, even with the available statistics of joblessness in Nigeria, some individuals, especially youth, are still not interested in venturing into low-skill jobs like tailoring to make a living, due to the belief that one hardly becomes successful as a tailor. For quite some time, tailoring job wasn't considered by many as a career that one can make a living out of. They feel the impatient to learn the job for 2 or 3 years before starting out on their own. People always prefer a job that will give them huge amounts of money overnight without passing through the process that leads to being a high earner. Nonetheless, some people who have been in the system for decades have different stories about the career because a tailor can be more successful in life than a salary earner. Labaran Taylor is a George-based dressmaker who has been in the business for the past 40 years. He said he owes his entire life to the business, adding that with it, he was able to build houses and take care of other basic necessities of life. This business you are seeing has done a lot for me. It fed my family, provided me and my family with a comfortable accommodation, as well as others that put up for rent. Labaran also said with the business, he has sponsored his children to university-level education. The school fees of my children is obtained from this business. Considering how expensive attending private schools is, God has been helping me to pay their school fees. I do pay 600,000 naira school fees annually for my children. Lawan Muhammad, another tailor in the city, has a similar story. For quite some time, tailoring job wasn't considered by many as a career that one can make a living out of. They feel the impatient to learn the job for 2 or 3 years before starting out on their own, and eventually manage to break even. The tailors, however, said making a successful career in tailoring is dependent on how serious one is, adding that with determination, the opportunities for success are limitless. Ado Musa, Trust TV News, Jos.
And now, away from Nigeria, a man has set himself on fire near the Japanese Prime Minister's Tokyo office in an apparent protest over the government's plans to hold a state funeral for former leader Shinzo Abe later this month, Japanese media reported. According to report, the man set himself alight early on Wednesday and was taken to hospital, suffering burns to his entire body. A police officer who tried to extinguish the flames was also injured. Abe, Japan's longest-serving prime minister, was killed while campaigning for the ruling Liberal Democratic Party, LDP, on July 8th. A publicly funded state funeral will be held in Tokyo on September 27, with some 6,000 people from Japan and overseas set to attend. And in sports news, the world record set by Tobi Amusan in the women's 100 meters hurdles semi-final at the Athletics Championships in Oregon in July of this year has been ratified by the World Athletics, previously known as IAAF. This was disclosed on Tuesday in a statement published on the athletics body's official website. Amusan ran a time of 12.12 seconds to defeat former world record holder Kendra Harrison, who had set the world record in the 100 meters hurdles with a time of 12.20 seconds in 2016 at the London Muller Anniversary Games. The 25-year-old was, however, not done as she followed that remarkable performance with a wind-assisted 12.06 to win the final. And that's a wrap on Trust News Update. You can watch more via all our social media platforms and also watch us live on YouTube. I am Ayuba Ilya. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.